Nico Nico suspends Visa payments for their premium subscriptions, making it another site that is either suspended or removes such payments in the series of credit card companies versus Japanese media sites. You know, I've been talking for a bit about this recently, where, like, anime's future potentially is going to be bleak because Disney, etc., is going to be forcing media to be more acceptable for wider/modern audiences. It seems like that's really already happening. It's been happening for the past few years, it's just most people have been completely unaware of it, including myself. And I heard about it, but now getting the full-blown information on it, it's very clear that, honestly, anime really is becoming censored. Like, anime, manga, and Japanese culture itself is being forced to conform and censor itself for Western audiences. And it really kind of starts with this. A few years back, basically, I remember this post where Western credit card companies are forcing Pixiv and Fanbox, a traditional Japanese site for SFW and NSFW art, to block monetization for some types of content. And ever since this started happening, when these credit card companies started pressuring them, there started to be censorship, self-censorship, and even Japanese users of the site, not even Western users, started to have incredible, absurd censorship. And they all started complaining about it. It's like, what's going on here? And then, you probably have heard about this news. Late last month, Pixiv blocked adult content in the United States and United Kingdom. And this pretty much basically said that these Western companies really are putting so much pressure on these Japanese sites and companies to where they're having to force self-censorship. Now, to be fair, this type of block here is easily gone around. You just use a VPN, but it does not change the fact that there has been an ongoing movement with these different companies to force their agenda and political viewpoints on these companies in different countries and force them to conform and to change, to censor. We have seen this a lot, and these companies even dive into these trends of using buzzwords, etc., to get people's attention and water down the true meaning of what certain buzzwords are. You know, nowadays you go online, you'll see people instantly, like, trying to label someone like a racist or whatever, and there's, like, no evidence. They just do it because they want to catch attention, and they want people's eyes on them, but there is just nothing there, and it just waters things down to such a degree that it's like you can't take it seriously. So when there's actual problems related to some really huge issue, people don't take it as seriously because you have people continuously using buzzwords and kind of not being able to separate reality from fiction. And that's what these credit card companies are doing. They are forcing this narrative and forcing actual changes within these companies and blocking actual legal adults from viewing any form of content. It's honestly wild. And I mean, we've already seen this with Disney. Disney pretty much said, which I covered like a few days back, that Disney wants to change anime to make it more acceptable and for wider audiences and modern audiences, and these companies are obviously doing that as well. They're attacking the art section of anime and manga, artists and all that, and this obviously, thanks to these credit card companies putting so much pressure on these sites, it's going to eventually spread to anime and manga. It's already kind of have, but it's going to spread definitely to merchandise. So think about this. If they have such an issue with SFW and NSFW content and art, okay, within anime and manga, and what artists do, imagine how they're going to feel about manga. Like, anyone, especially if you live in the United States, I know, I have seen it. You go to a bookstore, there is manga that is very raunchy. That is in, let's say, Books A Million, or Barnes & Nobles. And I know it's raunchy. I've read it. I know. And it's like, when they finally find out about that stuff, they're going to straight up probably censor that as well. Force these licensors and stuff that bring that content over to the West to censor it, or not even bring it over because it doesn't conform to their ideals, their political agenda, so to speak. It's honestly just nuts. It's really nuts just seeing how all these companies now are really just starting to really go after anime and manga and Japanese culture and even Korean culture because, you know, there's obviously an uptick. There is a popularity boon of this content within different countries now. I've talked about this in previous videos. Go watch those if you want more context. But it's like these companies have taken notice and now they want a slice of the pie, but they also want to force that pie to be the certain flavor that they want. For instance, like if you want a pumpkin pie, they're like, no, screw you. You're only getting an apple pie. That's what they basically are. They are forcing you to have what they want you to have, and that's it. They don't want anything. And it's like, at the end of the day, especially credit card companies, them having this narrative and goal to force companies to censor, it's like, you should be the most neutral party. Because it's like, your job as a credit card company, debit card company, is to just be a vessel for my money. That's it. That's all. You make your money off of me with either credit or debit, whatever. That's it. Leave it at that. Why in the hell are you diving into political things and trying to force this narrative on companies? It's wild. And so seeing Nico Nico and Pixiv, Fanbox, etc. all conforming to these different companies, it's sad. Because there's a lot of pressure there. And I think what it really does come down to, I'm assuming, I don't know if this is true, I'm assuming it's because most likely there isn't a really big Japanese card holder. For instance, like a credit card, debit card holder in Japan. I could be wrong with this. I don't live in Japan, obviously. But I'm going to assume that the main form of payment, if there is a card payment, is probably through Visa or MasterCard in Japan. So that pressure coming in makes a lot more sense when their main form of payment's probably over there, is thanks to these credit card companies. So they have a monopoly, pretty much, I'm assuming. And so anyone that tries to sprout up, so to speak, and be a counter to them, doesn't really get far, because they're not really well established. Their infrastructure is pretty much dog water, so they can't really do anything about it. So that's why these companies are able to bully other sites and other countries into doing what they want, because they hold so much power when it comes to money, etc. It's wild. I hate seeing this, and I mean, it's been the writing on the wall for a while. I mean, we have seen it with anime, with like dub changing and localizers with Dragon Maid, to, you know, Disney being basically saying the quiet part out loud when making things more for wider audiences. And now this, it's just, we are in some very dark times. I hate how everything nowadays has to be political. I absolutely loathe that so much. And that is a big segue that goes into this topic, is that most people that especially watch anime, read manga, etc., we do that, and I know this, I say it for myself, I use it as a form of escapism when I play games, etc. I don't want to think about, you know, maybe when I have to eat, when I need to go shower, when I need to go outside and do a run or whatever. It doesn't matter. All little mundane things. Most people that dive in and read something or watch something, they want to escape into that reality and experience it and immerse themselves into that world. And when you have these companies forcing narratives and censorship and all these things within the stories, you as a watcher or reader are constantly reminded of this, and it makes you absolutely upset and sick, and it just takes you out of it. And it's like, we've seen this to where a lot of companies now also have just something against adult content as well. And speaking of which, let's get into the crux of the issue, why this is happening, and why, you know, credit card companies are pressuring Japanese companies. They want ID identification. For instance, they're wanting to force pressure to people that sign into these sites, etc., to have their ID a part of it, and to protect people, so to speak. It's very similar to what happened recently with Texas, when, you know, Pornhub got completely banned in Texas, because it's like, they were requiring an ID, so to speak. It's pretty much similar to that. It's like, having your ID online, giving it to these random companies, it's not safe. It's not. I mean, there's so many data breaches and stuff nowadays. Sony is a good example of that. It's like, you know, you don't want to give these companies your ID. And it's just not safe. As much as these companies or politicians try to say it's safe, it's not. Your information is just going to get straight up stolen. And it's just like, nobody wants to have their name and ID associated with these adult sites. They don't. That's just, let's be blunt. They do not want their name associated. And the fact of the matter is that these companies are forcing this type of stuff. It's like, stop butting in. Just let adults do what they want. This is not how to go about things. There's other ways and better alternatives than this. This is not the way to go about it. But I'll leave it at that. Just wanted to talk about this, bring it to people's attention. Dark times. Really dark times. Leave me a like if you enjoyed the video. And with that, Chibi out.